What up, Scallywags? Heading over to go play poker. In a lot of pain today. A lot of pain. Almost feel like staying home, but I told everybody I was going to be there. I don't break my promises. I'm taking Bobby this book. Bobby's always telling everybody, get on D's nuts. So he's getting D's Big Nuts storybook about the squirrel named D. I put dedicated to Bobby J. King in the front, but I told Amy, I said, whenever I die, give this to Bobby. But I'll give it to him before I die. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'm having a lot of pain today. That's all right. Pain lets you know you're alive, right? Just fucking gotta deal with it. Everybody hurts. Might as well jump. I need to turn that radio down, otherwise I'll get a strike. I gotta watch my language too. I saw a video earlier. The guy said YouTube, or his team was telling him that YouTube was on him about cussing. So I need to clean up my language anyways. My whole life I was on the streets, or I was in ward of the state, foster homes, county jail, city jails, prisons, all kinds of places. Everybody cussed all the time. Most of these kids, nowadays, I mean, remember I took Josh up his first day of school out in Arizona, and there's a little bitty kid, and stuff he was yelling at this teacher or a school mom, whatever, that was out there trying to direct people. Some of the words coming out of that kid's mouth were shocking to me. He's a little bitty guy, kindergarten, first grade. I was like, oh my goodness. But on my last channel, I did some videos for younger viewers, and I didn't cuss in them, and you know, when I was talking about my mother, what happened to her, I couldn't say what happened to her. My story's hard to tell clean. I mean, totally clean. It's really hard to tell. It's been my life's been a life that is not easily told, much less told clean, because there's not been much clean about it. I mean, how do you know, whenever I was talking about my mom in that video I did for kids, I said a bad man did something very bad to my mother. I didn't say that I remember waking up to the police with the big giant walkie-talkies back then and the bloody mattress, and I didn't say all that and even now I don't give everybody the full flavor of what my life has been like. Even to adults, the full flavor would be too much. The things I have seen and been around in my life are not clean things. But I also know, I remember what it's like to be a kid. I tried going and talking to schools, I believe you got to catch them young to make a difference, because they reach a certain age. By the time kids are in high school, it's really hard to do anything, because they've pretty much established who they are and got their friends they run with. But I've tried speaking at high schools. I've tried a lot of different places, and they'll ask, what are you going to say? And I'll actually write down, part of my life, and oh no, you can't say that, but they're having children read pornographic books in grade school. And you look all over YouTube and there's girls half dressed and dressed very provocatively, especially for their age, and YouTube knows there's a lot of people that are going to watch that, so they let it slide. They pick and choose what can be said and what can be not be said, and we're supposed to have free speech in this country, and we don't. You're free to say whatever you want to say, but only as long as you're saying what they want you to say, and that's kind of messed up. But we have to say graped. My mother was graped. Adding a G in front of the word does not change what that word is. People like to change words now, and sadly, 4 out of 10 young ladies will be assaulted. Statistically, 4 out of 10 by the time they're 18 years old. And sadly, 7 out of 10 boys. And, in school, they're talking about trans and some of the books I've seen parent at school board meetings where young students have gotten up and started reading the books that they're reading in school, and it's pornography. But you gotta say graped. That's where my mother was graped, right there in them apartments. Them apartments are boarded up now, a lot of them. But schools say, oh, you can't say that, and then any mention of God is immediately, no, can't talk about God. And a lot of my story is about God. So much so that I won't tell my story unless I can give God the credit he deserves for the change in my life. Yeah, I cuss a lot, and I'm still not perfect. I never will be, but I'm not a violent sociopath that hurts people and has no remorse for it, you know. I think about some of the stuff I've done, it makes me sick to my stomach. And I can't see myself doing anything like that. The only time since I got out of prison that I've been, truly violent, was when a man out in Arizona threatened to kill my wife and my children, and I heard him say it with my own ears. And I won't apologize for that. When I heard him say it, I thought he could be a dog with no teeth just barking like a lot of people do. But it was the what if that got me. The guy was a tweaker, up for days while I'm sleeping trying to get, ready to go to work. He's out creeping. And the what if is what got him almost taken out of this world. Because I was like, well, what if he does what he said he's going to do? And I knew that was going to happen. Can I live with myself? And the answer was no, I can't. So I hunted him down. And thank God, a man that I loved like a father showed up when I was working on him. It took him about 40 minutes, but he finally talked me down. And I was just in a bloodlust frenzy. See, I know how things work. Me and my friends, we don't call the police. I've seen women call the police, say a man's threatening her or whatever, and what the police will say is, we can't do anything until they do something. They'll suggest that you go up and you get a restraining order. If restraining orders gave you protection, police would wear them instead of bulletproof vests. A restraining order is a worthless piece of paper. It's not going to stop him from hurting you. It just ensures that if he does, he goes to jail for it. But if he hurts you, it could be the end of your life. It's a worthless piece of paper. And when women got some psycho, wacko dude stalking them or something, the restraining order will usually make them angrier and more aggressive. It's just a worthless piece of paper. My buddy told me, he said, man, you need to check out this spiritualist site on Facebook. And he sent me a link to it, so I went in and I was checking it out. And everybody in there. How do I find, they're all wanting to know how they find love and how do they find happiness and what should they do for this and what should they do for that. Well, this guy that runs the group, he can read auras and he's psychic and all this other stuff, and he'll help you find all the answers, for a small payment of. And there was a girl in there that goes, I have a neighbor that's a guy, and I live alone, and he looks at me very, very aggressively, just stares at me when I go outside, and he scares me. What should I do? All the women, all the people in there are like, you need to stare back at him. You need to get in his face and blah, 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 blah. And I told her, I said, if I was you, I wouldn't listen to none of these people. And she said, well, what do you think I should do? And I said, well, you could do what a lot of women do, and you can go to the police. The police are going to tell you, this is exactly what they're going to tell you. They can't do nothing until he does something to you. I said, and then they're going to suggest that you go down to the courthouse, take a day off work, fill out everything you need to, go in front of a judge, and get a restraining order against this guy, which is a useless piece of paper. I said, if I was you, what I would do, this is America. If you have not been convicted of a felony, if I was you, I would go buy a firearm. I would learn all the laws in your state with the firearm, and I would go and learn how to shoot that firearm at a shooting range. A firearm is a great equalizer. You could be the biggest, strongest man, and if a woman knows how to use that firearm, she wins. End of story. And that's what I would do. I would have something, so if he did get aggressive and attack me physically, I would have a way to defend myself. And the guy that ran the group, the psychic guy, he's like, what are you saying? So I said it again. And he goes, I don't understand what you're trying to say. And I said, motherfucker, you're the psychic. You tell me, what am I trying to say? You can't speak English. Use your psychic powers. And they kicked me out of the group. But two things amazed me about that. Number one, psychic man couldn't tell what the hell I was trying to say when I was speaking plain English. And everybody in there was going to him and these other people looking for happiness, looking for love. And I felt like if they wouldn't have kicked me out of the group, I would have said, you're all looking for happiness and love in the wrong places. You're never, from the time we're born, I think all of us have a longing of questions, you know, what's it all for? Why are we here? What's the purpose of all of this? And, you know, we got the breath of God in us. When God breathed life into Adam, that's the soul. We got the breath of God in us. And we have an innate desire to seek out our Creator. And you're never, I don't care how much money you got, I don't care how many fancy cars and nice clothes and everything you got, you're never truly going to be happy until, number one, you love yourself, you have a relationship with God, and you learn to love yourself. Once you have a relationship with God and you learn to love yourself, the rest will fall in place. But you can have everything. And unless you're at peace with yourself and with God, you're just not going to be happy. Well, I guess that depends on what you define happiness as. But yeah, I mean, me and my friends, we don't call the police. We deal with things ourselves. I have found the police, they got so many other things to worry about. And it's just, the group I ran with, you just did not call the police. It was not something you did. You just didn't do it. I had my house robbed one time. I didn't call the police. I put my ears to the streets and I found out who did it. I got everything back except for a boom box that one of the speakers didn't work. And let's just say I convinced him that it would be in his very best interest to give me $500 cash to make up for that boom box and my lost time and my effort having to run him down. And he gave me the $500. If I'd have called the police, they wouldn't have done nothing unless they ran into something, you know, along the way, but they ain't gonna do all that. They got too much, especially here, so many murders and stuff here that they ain't got time to be messing around with that little stuff. We always just deal with things ourselves. And in some ways it's good, and in some ways it's bad, because usually when you're a civilian and you're dealing with things yourself, you're breaking the law when you're dealing with things yourself. Because, you know, you tell somebody, hey, I know you robbed my house, I want all my shit and I want it now. Typically they're not going to be very cooperative with you unless you can get a little physical with them. But back then I didn't have no problem getting a little physical with people. It was a hobby. It's what I did. I wasn't a drug dealer. I collected money for drug dealers. That was my thing. I was very, very good at finding people. And nowadays, with the internet and all the apps they got, I got a name and a state. I'll tell you the VIN number on your car. I'll tell you every address damn near you ever lived in your life. I'll tell you your email addresses, social media, everything. Who you call the most. Family members, everything. But I don't know. I'm just in a lot of pain today. A lot of pain. Oh, and the disadvantages of not calling the police is, you know, you say I got word like right now. Got an old enemy of mine's out of prison. So my head's got to be on a swivel. Last time he went to prison was for shooting his own uncle. We got in a fight a long time ago, and he tried to stick his thumb in my eye. I managed to get my hands up inside of his arms, and I grabbed him by both sides of his head, and I pulled his head down, and I bit his nose hard as I could and started shaking my head. And his nose was hanging by one nostril. So much blood was coming out of his face. I thought somebody had a hose on us for a second. He started yelling, I quit. And I let him up. He went to the hospital, got it sewed on. He didn't call the police. He didn't say nothing to the police. And if he comes looking for me, I mean, he's going to shoot his own uncle. He could shoot me. That's a disadvantage. I can't call the police about it. I gotta just deal with it. I gotta keep my head on a swivel. I gotta stay alert. And if I do see him, I know he's not there to play patty cakes. That means I gotta be willing to shut him down. And since I don't really go nowhere except for my house, he shows up my front door, I'm gonna take it as a threat to my wife. And I'll do what I have to do. Hopefully, God willing, that won't never happen. If I had my way, and I mean this with all my heart, if I had my way, I would never hurt another human being as long as I live. And see, that's another way I know there's a God. When I was younger and I did all those things that weren't good, it didn't bother me at all. I mean, I didn't think about it. It didn't bother me. I didn't care. Ever since I got God in my heart, that's when all the guilt and I got a lot of guilt. And I didn't have that before I found God. Anybody that knows me over here, they all freak out. I still get comments about it from people. Drastic night and day change. Just fucking drastic. And it was a very powerful experience. I never cried. I was a rock. Nothing bothered me. I didn't care what nobody said about me because I didn't give a shit about anybody. You say whatever you wanted. It didn't make no difference to me. I could care less. It's just I didn't care. My friend, my best friend, since 1983, Nate, he told me when I come back, he said, Mark, I'm glad you went to Arizona. And I said, how can you say that to me, man? I missed you guys. And he said, Mark, you were so evil. That's the word he used. He said, you were so evil, I didn't think I could keep running with you, bro. And I said, evil, Nate? And he said, you don't remember, man? And the stuff I have forgotten that people have told me is probably crazier than anything most people have ever done in their lives. And that's just stuff I forgot. I did terrible things. I was extremely violent. People weren't scared to death of me because I was such a great fighter. They were scared to death of me because something little, you're at a dead stop calm, and you got all those different stages all the way to where you're full blown trying to take somebody out. I would go straight to fifth gear forward in 2.2 seconds over stupid stuff. And I think people realized that, hey, if you're going to mess with that dude, you better be willing to either kill him and maybe spend a lot of time in prison or get killed. It did not take much to send me over the edge. And sometimes I wish there was a way that people could understand just how ate up I was. I always use that story where, Cindy told me she used to hate my guts. I said, why'd you hate me? Two of your brothers are two of my best friends. She said, you chased a man through my house with a gun shooting at him. And at first I was like, no, there's no way I would disrespect one of my brothers like that. And then I got thinking about it, and it came back to me, and I did do that. And you would think, if you're trying to shoot somebody, that they would have done something so serious that you would remember what it was. I could not tell you his name. I couldn't tell you what he did. He made me mad. And I tried to shoot him. And I'm not proud of that. It's stupid. Because it must not have been too serious, or I'd remember what he did and I'd remember his name. That's how ate up I was. I mean, I raged against the world. I wanted everybody to hurt as badly as I did. That's why collecting money was such a good job for me. Because I get a hold of somebody and just, my nightmares are not so much things that's happened to me. My nightmares a lot of the time are people's eyes just looking at me saying, please stop, you know. Towards the end, I was getting into my work. I was enjoying it. And you should never, if you're enjoying hurting another human being, something is very wrong with you. And that's how I know there is a God. Because I went from enjoying it to feeling nauseous about it to, I don't know. I've had people tell me that whenever I would clock out back in the day, they said my eyes would just change. It's the way I've had it described to me is almost demonic. Like somebody else would take over, and I'm not trying to push responsibility off on the devil made me do it, but sometimes I wonder if all the anger I had in me and all the drugs and all the alcohol, if maybe it didn't open me up for something that wasn't good. And I mean, I could tell a lot more stories, but I'm not going to. But to go from that to who I am now, I mean, now I can honestly say that I honestly care about other human beings. And I don't want to hurt nobody. And I do have a lot of regrets about things I've done. You know, one of the things that makes me think maybe that I wasn't, the devil made me do it kind of thing, is I remember one time this guy, I could have made a lot of money. Everything I would collect, I would get half. If they owe 10 grand, I get 5. Well, this guy, I could have made a lot of money. A lot of money. And when I saw him, there was a few people looking for him. But whenever I saw him, he had his kid with him. And his kid was probably 7, 8 years old. And at my core, that's always been my thing. No children. You don't hurt children. And I'm not saying I would have physically hurt that kid. What I'm saying is his dad might not pay his debts. But if I beat that man in front of that child, that's going to traumatize that kid. And I said, I'm going to let it go. When his kid ain't around, I'll get him. And another guy got him later on that night. And I lost out on that money, but I did the right thing. if there was a child, my buddy Johnny, that I'm going to pick up right now, I lent him $50. He said he was going to have it Friday. Friday came and went, and I told him I needed that money back. I was living out on the streets, and that money was for my kids' Easter. I looked for them all day Saturday, couldn't find them. The only time in my life I ever showed up empty-handed on a holiday, and I didn't have nothing for my kids. Needless to say, come Monday, I was pissed. And I started hunting him, and I finally found him at his house. I went up and knocked up on the door, and he stepped out in the front porch with his son in his arms. And his son was probably 2 years old. And I said, you know why I'm here, don't you? And he says, yeah. He said, you won't beat my ass. And I said, so you're going to come out on the porch with JJ? And he smiled at me because he knew there's no way in hell I would swing on him with that baby in his arms. Would not do it. And when we did get into it, it was worse on him because I was more pissed off about it. Should have just took it then, but, and we were friends the next day. We always are. Me and my friends, I fought with all of them, except for Nate. Me and Shane's never fought neither. But almost every other one of my brothers, and there was about 30, 37 of us that were real close. And we ran together. But yeah, just fucked up, man. Children were always that one thing. And, if it was a demon or something like that in me, I don't think a demon would care if a child got hurt. But that was the one thing at my core. The general rule when I was growing up, the code among even criminals was no women, no children. Now, if the woman was part of the game, she was fair game too. And I know some women that are just as dangerous as any man. Maybe more, because you wouldn't expect them to be that dangerous. Shit, my buddy Tommy's daughter, me and Nate had to go up and get her from northern Illinois because she stabbed her boyfriend. Her boyfriend slapped her, and she stabbed him with a fork. And I'm not talking just poked him. I'm talking she sunk a fork in his chest. We went up there, and they had like a whole house full of these teenage, early college motherfuckers up in there partying. Me and Nate walked up in the front door. They was all sticking to the walls. He was in a room with Kristen and not wanting her to leave. And as soon as we walked in that room, he didn't say a damn thing. He had to go to the hospital and everything. She stabbed him. I bet you he don't ever slap her again, though. I'm not talking she poked him. I'm talking she sunk a fork in his chest. And that's one of my friend's kids. Her mother's even worse. She's a brawling bitch. If I got in a fight with her mother, I would get in the side stance and I would hit her like a man. I would have to. Or she would hurt me. She ain't no joke. I know a few women I would not want to have to fight because I would have to fight them like a man. And they're dangerous. They'll stick you or shoot you. So, well, I'm gonna hop off here. I get Johnny and yeah, I need to clean up my mouth anyways, and get serious about doing some of these videos, trying to get through to some young people, and then maybe I can have a little peace when I close my eyes, If just even one person changes course in their life and takes a different path, then my life was worth something decent, something good, you know. It sucks looking back at your life and seeing nothing but wreckage, like a tornado's torn through everywhere you've been. It sucks. Like I said yesterday, all we get when we come in this world is time and choices. So please be wise with both. So when you get to the end of your road, which will come quicker than you think, you don't have so many regrets. You can say, I lived life the way it was supposed to be lived. I touched a lot of lives in positive ways. And I accomplished something while I was here. If just one person did that because of anything I said, that's why I do it. I'll never monetize. I don't do it for money. I do it for redemption. But I'll talk to you guys later. Much love to all of you. Peace out.